Our domain is computer graphics. Computer graphics consist of generating images after we model the scene, potentially animate it, and then create the rendering at the end. Our group has worked on rendering in computer graphics. We have done many contributions in these last 12 years. The first one concerns shadows. Calculating shadows is very complex in computer graphics. A very well-known method is called the shadow map, where we compute depth map from the light source and then use that when we render the final image. We identified a special property of perspective projections that allowed us to compute these much more quickly and with less memory. The second contribution concerns the rendering of sound. Our group also investigated 3D sound, and we identified perceptual properties of human audition that allowed us to cluster sources together to simplify the computations and use the masking properties of audio to reduce the amount of computation and memory used to render 3D sound. This result was actually used in companies for computer games in several titles. The third contribution that we've done more recently concerns the use of multiple images around a single scene, which allows us to create a 3D reconstruction. What we were interested in is the fact that we can transfer illumination from one view to the other. To do this, we separate each image into two layers, one with lighting and one with the intrinsic properties, and then we can actually transfer the illumination from one image to the other. This result was done in collaboration with my colleagues Inria and Pierre Lafont. 30 years ago, computer graphics was a very young field. It was basically a technique which was used in film production to create special effects. Since then, things have evolved enormously, and the domain has become much more mature and has a much better mathematical and scientific foundation. For example, in the case of calculating global illumination, we use the equations from physics, which allow us to have a much more solid basis to calculate the final images. The same goes for geometry and modeling, which use differential geometry concepts. As a result, it is a much more mature field and in a way much more challenging. However, it's also very interesting because the results that we generate can actually have an impact in many other domains which use similar mathematical principles, for example, such as image processing or medical imaging. In the next few years, there are many interesting challenges that we would like to address. The work we've done so far has advanced the state of computer graphics. However, the domain, as I said before, has become much more mature. So one of the challenges that we would like to address is allowing computer graphics to be used by many more people. This is based on some of the work we've done more recently, where instead of explicitly modeling and displaying synthetic objects, we actually capture objects from cameras and videos and allow them to be integrated into a virtual environment. In addition, we'd like to examine techniques for design and drawing. Together with the image-based techniques, will make 3D graphics much more accessible to everybody.